What's up? This is E.J. Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is E.J. Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights, where me, your boy, E.J. Stewart, does 2 live stream shows per day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. And this is the big day. This is the day we've all been waiting for.
Let's go, Knicks!
Nothing involved in the Knicks. But this is indeed a very, very, very exciting day.
We want that ass!
We made it! We made it to day 40, and I know you guys are excited. I know I'm excited.
What do you care?
Oh, no, I care a great deal. I care a great deal. We started this journey about a little less than 3 months ago with day 1.
Day damn one, Vivian. Day damn one.
And slowly but surely, for 8 straight weeks, we put together content, laughs, crash outs, guests, all the 9 to put together what I think has been a fun show, an awesome journey, and I cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with me throughout this entire time. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to do this last show. We're going to have a lot of fun here, and just because this is the last day of 40 Days and 40 Nights doesn't mean there won't be more content to come. Trust me, there will be. Plenty of more content to come here on New Generation Media. Plenty of more content to come from your boy. Maybe an announcement a little bit later. We have 2 shows today. So we have this morning show. Then we'll have some stuff to talk about later tonight as well. So make sure you stay locked in, not just for day 40, but night 40 as well. Very excited about this show we got for you today. Coming up, we'll be talking about what I thought was the best way I could put it, awkward exchange between Russell Westbrook and the Kings beat writers after their loss to the Pelicans last night. Russell Westbrook, as the kids would say, had time today, or had time yesterday, I guess, to air out what he thinks were frustrations from his standpoint about how the Kings have been covered this year. I'm sure there are plenty of Kings fans that have frustrations about how they have played as a team. They are the worst team in the NBA. So we will have a conversation about Russ and whether or not he was in line or out of bounds with his, I don't even know if I call them comments. There was a lot of just questions and him suggesting and asking the media to, I guess, keep the same energy they have in the tweets. So that'll be a fun conversation. We'll talk about that. Also, some important news involving the free agent front. Steelers reportedly interested in Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, star running back for the Seahawks. Is that a good fit? We'll talk about that in a little bit. We also want to talk about what's been going on with the New York Jets and the quarterback search. Connor Hughes dropping this morning some news regarding the Jets and why it may not just be one free agent quarterback they target. It could actually be 2. So I'm very interested in discussing that. I also want to bring up, I didn't get to it yesterday, and I don't even have it listed as like a topic or as like a lower third or anything like that. But I know I want to talk about it. Hopefully I'll remember before the show is over. But I saw a report about the Dolphins. And I couldn't tell from the report if it was something they were proposing or something that was proposed to them, but a silver bullet to potentially move Tua Tagovailoa and get off that insane amount of money that he is still owed on this upcoming season. The price was heavy. I want to know, would you do it? Because I'll be honest, I thought about it and I thought there was no chance in hell I'd do this with the Dolphins, but there may be others who disagree. I certainly think if I was the Jets and that was the price, I would maybe consider it. I would definitely consider it. So I want to talk about the report I saw on Tua Tagovailoa yesterday as well. And finally, we also have some stuff on the Giants free agent search because they could be out of a wide receiver. There's one team that is targeting their star receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, who is going to be a free agent this upcoming season. Should the Giants bring him back? Can they afford to bring him back? We'll discuss all of that in a little bit. So, 40 days, 40 nights with your boy, EJ Stewart, streaming live in multiple spots, including live on YouTube, New Generation Media. Round of applause. Big round of applause to the New Generation Media YouTube people. Shout out to Matthew Graves, who already was in the chat prior to the show even getting started. Said, made it to Big 40. I tried tuning in later. Say what's up. Great work, EJ. Matthew, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the kind words. I really do. We also got John Lean, who's been rocking with me all 40 days in the chat. Let's go. Final day, baby. That's right, baby. That's right, baby. 40 days, baby. We're running through the tape. We're running through the tape, baby. Let's go. Shout out to John Lean. You've been rocking me and holding me down for these 40 days. I greatly appreciate that. So we're live on YouTube, New Generation Media. We're also live on X, EJ_Stewart. Round of applause, people on X. X has been rocking hard with me as well. I've gotten, in some days, my absolute biggest following on X. So appreciate you guys watching me on X. Greatly appreciate y'all. And of course, we're streaming live on Instagram. Action EJ is where I'm on Instagram. Once again, we'll give another round of applause for the Instagram audience for rocking with me for 40 days. Even though I know you guys have been the audience that maybe has been stiff the most because of the way my software works. Now, sometimes I gotta I basically gotta click like 3 buttons in order to get Instagram to work correctly. And it's like one of those order of operations where if you don't do the order correctly, it doesn't work out. So there are so many different times where I've been live in 2 spots and out on Instagram, or even though everything's right, I didn't click the final button to get you on, or I've started but realized Instagram didn't work, so I had to shut down the whole stream and then recreate it to make sure I can include the Instagram, because again, there's a lot of, with the way Ecamm works, and now Ecamm's giving me a lot of grief, but I'll give also a round of applause to Ecamm. That is the software I use. This is essentially maybe a commercial for Ecamm. I don't know if it's a good one, because y'all have seen some awesome, cool things we've been able to do. We've seen some technical difficulties. So it's been back and forth. But Ecamm has survived through the 40 days. We're going to make it to the end here. So shout out to the software. But because of the software, the Instagram part of it is the one that's the most tricky. So I give a big, big thanks to people on Instagram who maybe don't have as much. The YouTube and Twitter always know I'll be on, even if it's not right at 8 a.m. or 6 p.m. like today. They know I'll be on shortly after that. Instagram audience, they might never come on, or they might be, whoa, it's an hour past. He just finally put us up. Like, I understand that. So much love to the Instagram audience again. Y'all been holding me down as well. So let's get it started, man. 40 days and 40 nights. Ooh, I am excited for this one.
I'm interested.
Let's get it going. All right, so let's begin talking about sound that you have to hear. Because I'll be real, keep it a buck with you guys. Didn't quite know where the show was going to go when I went to bed last night. Because we exhausted. It seemed like a lot of the content from yesterday. I did see Danielle Hunter had signed a $40 million extension. So congrats to him. Give a round of applause to him. He's a really good player. Borderline great player. $40 million guaranteed. Whew. It's only 1 year. But damn, that's a lot of money. He deserves it. Shout out to him. He's a great player. But otherwise, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about in the morning. I'm going to go to sleep and wake up and hope that there's stuff I can find. And sure enough, that's what happened. We got some fun stuff, so that's good. And I did not expect that we'd be leading with the Sacramento Kings on the 40th day. If you could have gave me 40 guesses and then another 40 guesses, like 40 days and 40 nights, about what teams or players will be leading the last day show of 40 days and 40 nights, there's no way within those 80 guesses I would have guessed Russell Westbrook or the Sacramento Kings. Not a chance at all. But here we go. I wake up after a late night of basketball and hoops in Sacramento, and Russell Westbrook had time for the Sacramento media. So you have to hear this sound. So I know you guys have not probably followed Kings basketball much because there hasn't been much to follow. They've been, again, one of the worst teams in the NBA. They might have the worst record. I'm trying to actually see for sure so I can confirm that. I don't want to say they have the worst if they're not technically the worst. But they've certainly been one of the worst teams all season. And unlike a lot of the other teams, this is not a team that was going into the tank. Like, they traded for Zach LaVine, obviously, last year. Like, they had guys that they hoped would parlay this into a competitive season. And the Kings currently have indeed the worst record in the NBA. The absolute worst. Bottom. Worse than all the teams you can think of. The Nets, Wizards, all those terrible teams. Kings are worse. Matter of fact, we're going to platform the sound machine today. Yeah, that's the sound from the Kings arena most nights as they struggled most of the season. So I wanted to want you to hear this sound from Russell Westbrook. Because they lost this game. This is another game where their defense collapsed. They gave up 40 points in the third quarter, and I think 38 in the fourth quarter. And it was a poor showing. But that didn't stop Russell Westbrook from airing out what he said are legitimate beefs he has with the Kings organization, and the Kings beat writers in their press conference. And he challenged the Kings media to air their grievances with the team to him because he doesn't like what he's been seeing written about the team. If it will play. Seems like I'm frozen. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. Let's try it one more time. Russell Westbrook talking about the Kings and their issues. Let's see. Wow, that doesn't want to play now. That's great. All right, so I'm going to try this one more time. I dragged it in right before the show started, and now it doesn't want to play. So I'm going to see if let's see if I put this here. Okay, that looks a little more better. But I don't see any, that's weird. Sorry about this, guys. I usually don't have this issue with playing sound. I'm just going to delete this and start over and try to see if I can get this in here. But this is going very weird. Let's see, maybe if I put it, I'm just going to put it in a different spot. Let's see if that works better. All right, so here's Russell Westbrook. I'm going to put it here. Let's see, maybe that works better. No, ooh, it doesn't want to work. Okay, so this is weird. Russell Westbrook, it's hard to pitch, hey, the sound that you have to hear, and then I can't actually play it. Yeah, that's so weird. None of the sound actually came in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close my program real quick. So just to back up one more time, I'm going to reset it and come back in, and hopefully it will acquiesce to what I'm trying to do here. It's weird because the sound machine is playing, so everything else with that is working, but it's just not simply this aspect of it is the one that's not working, which is very bizarre. It does not happen very often. Again, apologies to you guys. But I guess there's been concerns about how the Kings have been talked about in the media. It's not something I've been familiar with. Again, I'm not someone who's going to purport that I've been watching a lot of Kings basketball. So here's Russell Westbrook challenging the media to air their grievances in front of him.
What y'all think, though? Because y'all got a lot of answers and y'all always be talking. Oh, it's very interesting. Y'all don't got no. You guys have a lot of opinions about how we do what we doing. What you got? No, you. Yeah, you make a lot of statements and broad statements that you have no concept.
Okay, so again, you're starting to get the impression, okay, this is definitely a little contentious. So he starts challenging the media. He gives his opening statement, like, oh, tough game, whatever. But enough about me. What do you guys got to say? You guys got to say a lot. And he challenged one guy's got nothing to say. Really? You always got something to say. No? Okay, what about you? What about you? So one reporter steps up to the plate, and here we go. Here's a back and forth exchange about from Russell Westbrook with a reporter who has been critical of him throughout this season.
Where do you get your context from? Are you in practice? Are you at our film session? Are you anywhere around the building? No, I haven't seen you at practice. So the false context of, and actually, do you know me? No, you don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know me. But you make a lot of comments as though you do know me. No, you don't. My intent, I see it. But I'm asking you now, but you don't know me, right? So you don't know anything about me. Thank you. That's good. Anybody else?
I mean, so he's going back and forth with this guy. Then there's a reporter here who tries to go back and forth with Russ, to try to combat what he's saying and give his perspective of the team. And he says that it's fair to suggest that the Kings have had a bad season and that they're the worst team in the league because they are.
Quiet today, but you guys have a lot of comments when the game's going on. After the game, what we doing, what we should be doing, how we should be doing it. I'm confused. Oh, let me hear. You must have been in our film session too.
I'm not in your film session, but you guys have the worst record in the NBA.
Cool.
You guys are from bottom three in offensive defense throughout the year.
Perfect.
I think that's fair.
What's fair?
It's fair to point that out.
Yeah, that's been pointed out, but that's not the only thing that's been talked about. What else is to point out?
Well, I can only speak for myself. But
Yeah, but that's not the only thing you say. I've seen things you say. It's not just about our offense and our defense and what our record is. We've been the worst record for a long time now.
Oh, man. Russ, one of a kind. All right, so again, there's a lot of time to play. So I'm trying to do this as best I can. My machine, again, is not acquiescing in the best way, but I'm doing the best I can for you guys. So this continued with the reporter trying to say that, you know, he does think the Kings are at least trying to win. He thinks you're the worst team in the league. You haven't played well. And Russ can, at the very least, accept that. They seem to end, I think, on good terms with this reporter. Again, this was not the end of this. So here is that Kings reporter, if I can get my machine to work again, which is now not giving me a whole lot of grief here. Okay, let's see. No, it still doesn't want to drag in. Let's see if I can do this way. Hold on one second. Yeah, apologies for my machine, which was totally fine right before this show started, is now completely bugging out. And I have no idea why. Maybe I'll close some tabs, and maybe that'll help. Maybe there's something open that's making it go really slow. Who knows? Okay, so I'll close some stuff. Hopefully that will help. Okay, so here's Russell Westbrook and that reporter coming to what I think was an understanding. Let's let you be the judge here, if I can get this in here. And it doesn't want to go in. Okay. We're going to try this one more time. Again, this is... talk about not being clutch. We're on the day 40, and this is the time when the computer was like, yeah, you know what, I've had enough. I'm calling it quits. It doesn't want to, like, drag in, which is very weird. I might be out of luck. You're getting the point, though, of what happened. I don't know why this doesn't want to drag. I can be honest. I don't know if it's my mouse has decided that it's also crapped out today. I don't know what's going on. This doesn't normally happen. The only thing I'll try one more thing just to see if maybe that helps. Okay, so click drag from or click add sounds. Where is add sounds? If I can add sounds, that'd be perfect. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna try to do this in a different way and hope that this will then help. Since dragging and clicking is not working, even though it usually works, and I don't know what's not happening today. Let's see. And this is out of order. Okay, so this is probably not going to go well for me today. I'm so sorry, guys. I wish I had the rest of this sound I can play for you, but something is wrong with my Finder in my computer. It's not doing what it usually does, which sucks because I had all this sound already loaded up, and I was just going to simply play it, and now I can't do that. But this was, I guess, the more of the story was Russell Westbrook going back and forth with these media members, and it ends with him essentially saying that, you know, at the end of the day, like, you guys have a responsibility to your jobs, and I get that, but at the end of the day, you guys have made a lot of comments about people's intents and how they have been performing, and it's actually affecting the team in a negative way. And he says if you want the team to play well, it's not going to help with how you guys are talking about the team. That was essentially his big thing, and that he's seen a lot of commentary that goes beyond basketball, that it's been about players' initial intent and what they're thinking when they're making these decisions on the court, and that these guys are then taking it into their actual jobs. They're taking it into the conversations they're having with their teams and with their teammates, and that's how friction gets caused. That's how issues get caused. And he says as a leader, he needs to find a way to quelch those kind of things because those are the kind of things that kill locker rooms. To me, if I was the Kings, I'd probably release Russell Westbrook today. And it's not even about Russell Westbrook even being wrong. It's just, that's not even the point. And you can argue, well, Russell Westbrook losing his job, that means that you're punishing him for this. If that's how it gets perceived, then so be it. I don't really care about that. I just think at this point in time, you have a choice when you're 15 and 40, whatever they are in this season. You could decide to play out the string and cause the least amount of problems as possible so that, oh, look, now it's working. Okay, so maybe we can hear some of this sound. So you can play this sound. You could play out the season, let this string play out, and not try to cause no waves and just play hard and just try to entertain the fans. Or you can start to wage war with media members and create negative headlines for the team. You could argue, I guess, to Westbrook's point, that maybe the negative headlines are being created anyway, but those headlines can be negated by simply playing better and simply trying to win. So, again, now I have the sound here because my computer decided to do something I had never seen it do before. But now it's working. Let's get Russell Westbrook here saying, again, he accepts that the reporter tried to at least say the Kings were trying to win. And he at least accepted that.
Actually, you have a lot of things to say. So this is your time. This is the floor to say it. This is the time.
I just think in sports when
It's the time.
teams don't have success,
Right.
they're up.
You think that we should have success, right? Do you feel that way? I mean, a lot of you guys feel, huh?
That you should have success.
Yeah.
I think you guys are trying to have success.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Okay, now I have my sound back. Let's hear from now this reporter. Again, that's why I had to play this sound, because this got so awkward. So this reporter is like, this is the worst team, the worst experience. You remember that kid, that little kid that was talking about playing PB football, and he was blaming the coaches. He was like, this is the worst team, the worst experience. Players, this is not on you. This is the coach's fault. This is essentially this reporter. This is how he sounded, because he starts his conversation with Russ being like, this is the worst year I've ever had covering this damn terrible basketball team.
I think it's been a rough year for everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, as somebody who's covered the league for a long time, and this is by far the worst season I've.
Yeah.
And I don't blame.
No, I don't think nobody's blaming me. I'm just saying, what I don't like is that I've been in the league a long time, and I've been around a lot of different organizations, media, beat writers, and we have a lot of young guys on this team, a lot of guys that don't know what's happening or what's around, whether it's from the coaching, from the players. You guys' job is to talk about the game, what's happening in the game, not stir up a bunch of, I don't want to cuss here because I want to get fined, but stir up a bunch of stuff that it's not accurate. And that's my problem.
So again, one of the criticisms I saw from this entire press conference, and it does kind of lend to the media criticism on this, is he keeps saying, stirring a bunch of stuff and people saying a lot, and then he kind of vaguely talks about people's intentions and stuff. But we don't really ever at any point get any specifics about what exactly is he upset about. Like, what is being said about this Kings team that he thinks is crossing the line? Because I agree with that other reporter who said it is within our right to talk about how bad you guys are. You guys are a terrible team. Russ says there's more to it than what is being discussed. We're trying to figure out what it is, and they're not asking the right question, and he's not presenting the case for like what they're saying beyond the means of basketball. So Russell Westbrook says here he respects the media, but the team deserves the same respect, and says that the false narratives that the media are pushing are impacting the players.
Like, being in the league a while, I've been able to experience a lot of these times where people outside of our building, outside of the film session, outside of what we do daily, how much work we put in, that is not an easy job to do. It's not an easy job to do. And I think the respect level is that we respect y'all, we respect what y'all do. Y'all come in, y'all make y'all comments, and nobody say nothing. But I don't have to sit back and not say nothing. I've been the media is, has been my thing and been on the road. But as a leader of this team, it's my job to speak up for the guys in the locker room. We talk.
So again, he continues saying that these narratives are actually hurting the team that is being spread, and they're lies.
Talk about it, they see it. I hear it. Because of the comments you guys make, you got guys thinking about a whole bunch of random things that has nothing to do with the game. You guys are making false comments about our team and what we're doing here, and I don't appreciate that. So my ask is that you respect what we do and we respect what you do.
And finally, Russ tells the media to keep their critiques to basketball and not personal intent.
I mean, I wasn't, I came here a little late, but I feel like you guys expect us that we was gonna win the championship. The conversation and how we talking is like, yeah, you guys, we don't win the championship. It's like it's a bust or something, and that's not the case. This is our job. Like, y'all have your job, y'all go to work. We don't. It'd be great if we can critique y'all, but we don't. We have our job. We come do our job the best way we know how to. Wins, losses, all a part of the game. And after that, we go home. Y'all go home and see our families. We go home and see our families, and that's that. But don't make false context comments about people as individuals, people who they are, what they do, what they're thinking, why they're doing this, how come they're doing that. If you don't know, don't say nothing you don't know nothing about. And that's particularly for you.
He went back to the first guy. That's particularly for you. I love to know what that first guy said. It's like that Thuggalicious meme in the Boondocks. Damn, I'm wondering what he did to make them that mad. That's how I feel watching this press conference. I'm like, I mean, I get an impression and get a good feel, even though I'm not in LA. Like, I kind of get a vibe of what the LA media was and the LA fans, and Russ had his beefs with them. I got in the vibe of some of the Oklahoma City Thunder media and fans, and when he's had beefs with them. Same with the Rockets, same with, not as much with the Rockets, but those two teams for sure. So I feel like I had some feel of the commentary that was out there. I'm like, what are the Sacramento beat writers saying about a 14-50 Kings team that needed all of this? Not saying that it didn't happen or that they didn't need all this, but it just seems strange. So Russell Westbrook making the joke that you guys thought we were going to win a championship or something. Do you see our roster? Which is quite hilarious. But I do think what I will say, and I think Russ couches it by saying I just got here and I got here kind of late. But you got to understand that this is a fan base and a media group that has covered an organization that you could arguably make the case has been the worst organization in the NBA for the last 25 years. They've made, in the last, 18, 19 years, one playoff appearance, or maybe two playoff appearances, no playoff series wins. A perennial lottery team that has never landed the number one pick in the draft. All just ownership dysfunction, selling the team, not sure the team's going to stay in Sacramento. They stay, they get a new arena. Vivek, it starts out a disaster. There's a whole issue there's a lot going on in the Sacramento King organization. So I think some of the things I hear from players when they play on these bad teams, they say, why is the media all attack? Because the media don't got a lot of patience for the years and years of nonsense that this organization has had to deal with. Now, maybe you just got there, but that doesn't absolve them from the years before you got there, while you were a Hall of Fame player and doing all the great things you did in your career. That doesn't absolve the organization from the criticism that they're going to come into this year with a team that was the only team that was stupid enough to trade for Zach LaVine, who brought in, again, the DeMar DeRozan, guys that you thought, in theory, for them, they thought they would come back, and the goal is to compete. Again, this was not a team that was tanking. No, they weren't trying to win a championship, but they weren't trying to tank, and they thought that they could be competitive, and they're the worst team in the NBA. This is a particularly rough year and a clown show, and it's been a running circus basically for the last 20 years. So I think some of the disposition from Russ about who are you guys to demand more from the Kings, they're not demanding a championship, they're just demanding a level of competency, and you guys have shown absolutely none, zero. So this has just been a rough year for the Kings, man. They threw out, remember, I don't know if you guys remember the video from earlier this year, there's a Kings season ticket holder who, I forgot what he sells, but he sells something. It's not sneakers or cars, but I think he's a fashion designer. But he's also a super Kings fan, and the Kings were getting destroyed earlier in the year, and he was saying that these guys he was yelling them to play some defense, and Zach LaVine and these guys who just got there, start yelling at bro, and they get him thrown out of the game, and he's, going to his social media being like, I've been a Kings season ticket holder for 20 years, I've never been thrown out of a game for yelling that the team's got to step up their defense, but these new guys I got here that are showing no effort are the guys that are now calling the shots. The culture there sucks. I don't need to be there. I don't need to have been in the locker room. I don't have to have been in a film session to see a 50-50 team. And I've watched, now they kicked the Knicks' ass this year when they watched them play. That was the worst Knicks loss of the season, in my opinion. But for the other games that I've actually tried to tune in and watch the Kings, I don't got to be in their film session or be in their building to know that their culture sucks. They're 15-50. Culture sucks on teams that are that bad. So when it comes to personal comments and, I don't know, people saying Russell Westbrook is out to get his own numbers or whatever, again, that is people's opinions. People can have opinions on a team. If you guys and that team are so out of your heads in terms of not being able to focus on basketball because of a reporter or columnist's opinion, then to me you have no business being in the NBA. And to be honest, watching it, this Kings team, there are probably a lot of guys who had no business being in the NBA. You're 15-50. This stuff that, Russell Westbrook's going to get championed for some of this. And like I said with the Drew Hanlon stuff yesterday, if reporters are making personal comments, going after guys' families, or going after guys' personal character in ways that are out of line, I 100% support challenging them and saying they should not do that. But when Russ goes back to what you got, thought we were going to win a championship, you're 15-50. That's a disappointing year for everybody. And I'm starting to get sick of players people around the game that are trying to strong arm how the game gets covered in a completely, utterly narrow way. The game's coverage got to improve for sure, and I will talk about it till the cows come home about how I would change how basketball gets covered in America, 100%. But between Drew Hanlon and then this thing, it's like, okay, so what you want guys to be like, all right, the Kings played a game and they played hard and they lost, and it's okay, they'll give them next time. We just move on to the next day. Like, the media is supposed to be a reflection of the fans. They're there as the buffer to the fans, and the fans have a lot of questions. The fans have concerns. The fans are frustrated. The fans are pissed off by how your team has played for the last 20 years. And whenever, this happens a lot with Russ, is that whenever there's any kind of adversity, he runs to I didn't even put the sound in there because I'm so sick of hearing him say it all the time. Say, oh, we got families. I got family. Like, okay, we all got families. You have a beautiful family. You have a beautiful wife, and your story in terms of the family and the stuff you do in Crenshaw and LA, it's amazing. What you do off the court, from what I've read and what I've followed, seems amazing. Does not mean you can't criticize a basketball game, or cannot say that on a basketball court you are doing things that may be hurting a basketball team. That is completely in line, and just feels like almost every stop Russ is at, if it's a fan, it's just a media member, if it's somebody, he has to be at war with somebody. And I'm like, enough. You're 38 years old, 37 years old, whatever it is. Like, you're not tired of this? You're 37 years old, Russ. Like, I know he kind of said he had nothing to lose, so he's right about that. He actually doesn't have nothing to lose. But if I was the Kings, I'd be like, this is now what you brought on our front door. We've sucked in anonymity. Like, we're not a national story. Nobody's coming around. Like, I remember being a Knicks fan when the Knicks were losing 60 games a year. And they were a national story. You know how embarrassing that was? Charles Oakley getting dragged out of arenas. James Dolan guaranteeing Kevin Durant's going to be here before he even hits free agency. Kristaps Porzingis trade and all the crap we had to go through with that. I remember how terrible that was as a fan, having to suck in front of the national audience with nowhere to hide. The Phil Jackson era, nowhere to hide. Knicks were still a national story despite being the worst team in the NBA. You guys have had the luxury of being the worst team in the NBA in complete anonymity. So if I'm Vivek and I see this on in my morning scroll, or I see that someone brings this to my attention after the game last night, I'm like, now we got to answer national media questions about this? We suck. Let us suck in anonymity. Russ says he's being a good leader here. I disagree. I don't think this is good leadership. I don't think this is good, because what is it going to solve? So, okay, so now you think these media members aren't going to go back to Twitter fingers? Of course they are. That's not going to stop anything. Have you seen social media? Patrick Beverley has had domestic violence charges where he allegedly tried to strangle his sister. These are all allegations. Those charges were dropped. And you know Patrick Beverley, you know that he is a troll. He's a troll, period. He's just a troll person. That's how he operates. But if you know him, especially on social media, he loves to troll. He loves to get after people. He loves to get after players. That is what he does. And much like Kevin Durant, who hasn't tweeted since the burner account scandal, which is way less serious than what Patrick Beverley is dealing with. But similar to that, we haven't heard from Patrick Beverley since this whole domestic violence thing with his sister happened. We haven't heard a peep. Until yesterday, which was weeks and weeks, maybe a month or so after those charges were dropped. And he came back like he was the old Patrick Beverley. He's like trying to troll Trae Young and getting after people. And everybody's like, wait a minute, dog. I remember you. It was like that meme from ATL with Big Boy. He's like, I know that ain't what I think it is. I know that ain't the boy with the strangulation charges against his sister. That word dropped. We never got an investigation, so we don't know anything other than what the initial allegations were, but the charges were dropped. But he's just, I'm just going to show up and just be the same old Patrick Beverley. Like, we weren't going to ask for, like, what the hell happened with you and that whole situation, that extremely disturbing situation. People are going to go back to, these reporters aren't going to stop tweeting about the team. They're not going to stop reporting about what they think is wrong with the team. So what did this accomplish? You got your pound of flesh. And again, the media sentiment is as low as it's ever been. So, like, there'll be people who will champion this. Oh, Russ owned those losers, and like, look, a lot of them sounded kind of. I like the dude that was like, this has been the worst team, the worst experience of my entire career. I like that guy. A lot of other reporters did sound very tepid. They probably were a little surprised, and yeah, that's gonna be the pound of flesh for fans who dislike media, for just Americans who dislike media right now. It's just, that's the thing. That's the cool thing, to dislike reporters, dislike media, and I'm sure that's gonna win over that corner of people, and it probably will win over his locker room, which I think is what Russ was trying to do. And again, he's going to be fine with that. He'll live with that, and that's okay. But again, if I was Vivek, I'd be handing him a pink slip today. I'd be like, the thing we're trying to do when we do these press conferences is to limit headlines and limit bad PR, and you brought this right to our front desk. So now we have to, me as the owner and this front office team, now we have to answer for why one of our players is challenging our media after we had another embarrassing loss, after we have continued to be the worst team in the NBA. And now that becomes a national story when nobody seemed to know or even care that we were this bad. That you failed when it came to what we needed you to do going into that press conference. No one gives a damn how this 15-50 Kings team is gelling with 19 games left in the season. Like that, like, to me, like, the fact that he's even like bringing that up is like, oh, you guys are impacting our play. Your season was over 3 months ago. Nobody cares about how the team is gelling and what if people are reading things in the media and that's impacting how they're playing out there on the court. You guys had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to turn this thing around. Now, you want to say, listen, how you guys have reported on us all season or what you guys said 3 months ago affected us, and maybe that's one thing. But that nobody cares about how this team is gelling now. Again, I'm a fan who's been through 60 loss seasons and some of the worst years that I've ever had the experience as a sports fan, watching the Phil Jackson New York Knicks and some of those terrible Steve Mills teams. Like, I watched that. Dave Fizdale coaching them. Like, Derek Fisher. Like, I've been there. No, not one person gives a damn about how guys are nervous about what a reporter is saying in a tweet or in a report when a team is 15-50. Nobody cares. Should they, if they're taking personal attacks on them or talking about like their, you know, their character in an unprofessional way, of course they shouldn't do that and challenge them on that. But is it affecting how the team play? What? You're 15-50. What are we talking about? But like this is like I don't know. Like it's just an aspect. Russ is a great player, man. I think that sometimes he gets too much of a bad rap. People forget how great he was. Because the one thing I hate, and as my good friend Rodri pointed out yesterday, I hate when people do the revisionist history thing, or people try to go back and say, well, actually, this guy wasn't that good now that we're years and years away from their prime. Like, people will do that about Russell Westbrook, say that he didn't deserve an MVP for being the first guy to get a triple-double for a season, which was ludicrous to say that he didn't deserve that MVP. Again, morons. But, like, so I think Russ, I think he gets a bad rap. He was an awesome player, one of the best point guards I've seen in my lifetime. You know, I don't know where he ranks in my lifetime, but he's top 10 for sure. Like, he's a great player. But, like he has made so much of his time when he has this availabilities with the media about being cantankerous, about trolling, about finding some issue with somebody else instead of just simply talking about his game. Like, I never forget the meme with him on the Lakers, and there was a stat line. You see the stat line below as they're asking him questions, and he had like a 0 for 9 or a 1 for 9 and 2 points, something like that, and all these turnovers. And then like the reporter asked him, like, how would you assess your performance today? He's like, solid. And it's just like, all right, man. Like, I don't know. He has an issue with the media. He has an issue with how he just seems like he's looking for reasons to crash out. That's what this felt like. It's like the team sucks. He doesn't have anything. There's nothing he can say about the team, and like, because at the time there was people who would try to talk about how he wasn't an impact player or how he was hurting the team with his play, even though he was a superstar. He could point to his numbers. He could point to how he impacted the team. He could point to how he led. He could point to his skill set. He could point to his production. And it's like now in the later part of his career that he can't do that anymore. Now it's well, I got a family, and we all have families. And our feelings are being hurt in terms of like, us then sniping at each other or not being locked in because we're worried about things outside of basketball related to the media. Again, if those players are worried about what something's being said in the media, those guys do not deserve to be in the NBA. I don't care what you think. That's a fact. You can't take a reporter being like, I think this guy is playing selfish or something like that. If that's what we're talking about, or this guy is trying to get paid and that's why he's shooting. If you think that and that guy can't perform because he's so worried about what Johnny Come Lately is writing in the Sacramento Bee, then what are you doing in the NBA? I do not, and let me be clear, I do not believe that those guys are that mentally fragile. That's why I think this is kind of like nonsense. I think this is kind of like a convenient excuse, a convenient thing to jump in and say, well, let me just jump on some issue that I have because I'm tired of wearing the brunt of another losing season. And he decided to pick this day. Again, he's going to get championed with his teammates, and there will be people who hate the media who will champion this. But I know his employers won't like this. Again, if I was the employer, I'd be like, get out. Like, what? We're one of the only teams that gave you an opportunity. And for the most part, it seems like he's played pretty well. And he's been it seems like a good leader. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that suggests he wasn't a good leader. Seems to have done his job just fine. And, okay, we're not good. We lose games. Like Russ said, win, lose basketball games is part of life. That's part of the sport. They had a lot of injuries. They probably came in a little overrated as a team. They probably overrated their own talent. And the season sucked. And now, like, Levine and Sabonis are out, so it's not like they have really much shot to win a lot of these games anyway. So we're just trying to get out of this season. Let's play out the string. You bring national headlines after a Pelicans-Kings game? I don't care what the reason is. And that it was a loss. I don't care what the reason is. I would get you out. I'd be like, I don't know why you did this. I don't know what your justification is. It does not even matter. Like, you failed simply by bringing attention to the fact that we're 15-50. I don't know, man. That was weird. I found that really odd that he decided to take this day to be the day to crash out. And, like, to be clear, like, the one thing I will say, and Andrew Marchand said this, like, I do wish there was some level of, let's talk about what was being said. Like, if there's a sliver of, like, you said that this guy is trying to undermine his teammate, I'd be all right, well, that's a very, very big thing to say. Maybe that's out of line. But also, again, people can have opinions. You are totally within your right to say your opinion is wrong. That's one thing. But him demanding that people to quote unquote stop talking about things that you know nothing about because you're not actually in film sessions. That is so ridiculous. It's a ridiculous concept. Like, they say these things out loud and it sounds good in their head when they would never do that. They would never do that. Like, think about anything in Russell Westbrook in terms of, like, what he thoughts on anything. I don't know where he stands when it comes to his favorite music. I don't know what he feels like when it comes to his politics or anything like that. You really think that his entire life that he never espouses thoughts on how things work without being in rooms and without actually knowing what's being said and without actually being involved in that way? Do you really, again, like I asked people yesterday about the Carmelo Anthony stuff, are you guys that stupid? I know you're not. But these things sound good on paper to put out in a quote and be like, yeah, don't talk about things you know nothing about. And people are like, oh yeah, Russ makes a good point. What? We talk about things that we know nothing about all the time. And if the Kings want to, I'm sure every reporter sitting in that room, if the Kings wanted to open up their film session to the media so that people can watch how these players operate and how they're paying attention, how they're locked in or not locked in, I'm sure they would take that invitation 10 out of 10 times. You're not giving them the access to have that information. So to play the game of are you in our building, are you in our practices, is silly because I'm like, you wouldn't allow it. So what are you talking about? I hate this, like, I hate the straw man arguments. I hate the finding excuses stuff for trying to skirt attention away from the fact that the team stinks to something else. And in fact, there actually was no attention on the fact that the team stinks. I guess Sacramento is a small community. It's one of the smallest, if not the smallest market in the NBA. So in theory, maybe it feels like they're in a fishbowl, and maybe for them it feels like everybody's so close they could see the person at the grocery store, they could see the person on the street. It's not like a big city like New York or LA where it's such a big, massive city, massive market that maybe it feels like there's a lot of other news in the local news and a lot of other things happening. So as much as the Lakers and Knicks are a big deal, maybe like in those cities, like there's so much stuff going on that it's not like this is the one game in town. Whereas with the Kings, they do have the Athletics now, but with the Kings, they are really the one game in town and the one big thing happening, except for the fact that they're the state capital. So I guess if you're into California state politics, then that's the other thing. So maybe that's where he feels like this has become like a little tougher for the players to deal with. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm just tired of it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I tripping on this? I felt like this got a little ridiculous when it came to the idea that if you don't know what's happening in our film room or in our practice, then you don't have a right to say, to espouse issues that are happening with the team. I'll tell you right now, you will never get me to stop talking about the Knicks and what I think is going on with the team. Ever. I'm going to try to be responsible as possible. But if I see things that look shaky, I talked about how Karl-Anthony Towns earlier this year looked like a guy that was moving around, looked like a guy that didn't want to be here, or looked like a guy that was frustrated with something, and his attitude and his disposition was hurting the team. I wasn't in any locker room. I wasn't in any press conference. I wasn't in any film session. But I have eyes, and I've watched basketball long enough to know when guys are not engaged and when guys are not playing the right way. I can give an opinion on why I think that is. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. You just have to live with that. Just like I have an opinion about what's happening with the mayor of New York City, or the president of the United States, or the governor of New York City, or the governor of Texas, or whatever. People espouse things about things they know nothing about all the time. This thing about you should never talk about something that you know nothing about is just something I know he would never do on his own life. There's 0% chance. So why are you now demanding that's how everyone else operates when talking about him and talking about the team? Matthew Graves in the chat. This is the same guy who takes personally that hecklers call him Westbrook. He's got Rabbiters, and like you just said, looking for a reason to crash out. Yeah, like the fan stuff. I didn't. And what's interesting is he hasn't had any like viral fan interactions of late. But I've said this on Maggie and Perloff show, and I said this on other shows too. Like, I don't know, like that. I hope Adam Silver, like, or somebody in the league office said, "Hey, we will do our best to deal with hecklers. You have to cut this crap out." Anytime a heckler says something that's Westbrook or something like that, like they'll say, "Oh, what did they say?" And like, what they end up saying doesn't sound nearly as bad as maybe we expected. There was one guy in Utah that definitely said a slur, it sounded like, and that guy, the depths of hell waiting for that guy. Screw that guy. But some of these other interactions he's had where he's like, someone says something to him and he just wants to crash out and get in their face, and it's just like, cut it out, man. Like, enough. So again, he hasn't had hecklers heckling him because the team is not in a position to be heckled. Like, maybe the Sacramento Kings fans will heckle him, like one guy did. He got his ass thrown out of a game earlier this year. But I guess if he's on the road or whatever, like, who's heckling Russell Westbrook now? Like, for what point? They're not good. So he's not really seeing those kind of heckles, I assume, because I haven't seen him crash out as much. Or maybe he has at least stopped that stuff. But yeah, this is something that Westbrook has had an issue where he has jumped up and decided to cause issue and have a beef or something. 40 days and 40 nights with your boy EJ Stewart. Lecky G in the chat. I've been a fan since I discovered Maggie and Perloff. You go, EJ. Thank you, Lucky. I don't know how many episodes you've watched of 40 Days and 40 Nights, but if you just got here and decided to check it out for the first time, apologies that my sound machine was completely crapping out on me in the biggest clutch moment as I'm getting right into playing some sound. So apologies for that technical glitch. We do have some technical glitches on the show, but usually not ones that weird and that bad. I'm glad we were at least work around that. But I appreciate you, man. I really do. Again, he says he discovered the show a year ago, and you go, EJ. it's a good time to remind folks that later tonight, it will be the final episode of 40 Days and 40 Nights, which I know is disappointing for many. And I totally get that. In fact, some of you may even be booing me. I'm sorry. I promise I'm sorry. But I think you'll have a fun night tonight because we got a lot of stuff happening that's going to be really cool. We'll have, of course, we'll have Kendall Fridays. My brother, Kendall Stewart, joins me every Friday to talk about sports, talk about superheroes, talk about wrestling, talk about whatever's under the sun. And he's my co-host when we do New Generation Sports Talk. He's my co-host also when we do New Generation Hero Talk, which is our podcast with our other brother, Shamari Stewart. So he joins me every Friday to talk sports and talk everything. He's a former video staff member with the Minnesota Vikings. He's also interned the Philadelphia Eagles, so he knows a lot about football. He also knows a lot about basketball and baseball too. So he's an all-around sports guy, and of course he knows plenty of Marvel and DC stuff as he co-hosts our Hero Talk podcast. So he'll join me live later today. That'll be awesome. But also, which is very exciting for me, is later today we will have Maggie Gray.
How dare you?
And Andrew Perloff.
Dr. J, everybody.
They will join me live for the final night of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I believe, I think it's 7 p.m., if I'm correct. 7 p.m., Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff will join me live.
The Raiders.
When Bus Jama?
For the final episode of 40 Days and 40 Nights. So lucky if you had a free Friday night and there's nothing happening and you want to check this out live, we'll be live 7 p.m. Eastern here on 40 Days and 40 Nights, talking shop, talking sports, maybe hearing what the update is potentially on what's happening with them and their futures. So if you want to get that, you want to make sure you lock in because they will be on the show live later today.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks.
Can't wait, man. That's gonna be a fun time. Shout out to you, Lucky G. Thank you for supporting me and rocking out with the show. Really do appreciate that. Also, Matt Graves in the chat. What up, EJ? This has been a fun journey. Looking forward to seeing what New Gen Media has cooking next. Yeah, we got stuff cooking. Don't know if an announcement is going to come today, but we definitely do have stuff cooking. And again, the stuff we have already intact is here. Like, again, Hero Talk is here, and we'll be probably doing those shows a lot more frequently now. Off Script, our wrestling podcast, is here with me and Lucas Goldman. Imperial Broadcast from our brother Shamari and Kendall. They do a phenomenal job with that. All that stuff is here. So there's a lot of content that lives here that's already going to continue and will rev up once 40 Days of 40 Nights is over and my schedule gets freed up because a little busy when you're demanding myself to do 2 shows per day every day for 40 days, at least every weekday. So it's so we'll have fun stuff coming up for sure, and I appreciate you, Matt, for rocking with me. Also, Matt in the chat, I've missed some of your drops of those. Setting an alarm tonight will be a must watch. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Again, it's going to be great to have Maggie Gray with me. Finally! And we got my guy Andrew Perloff.
Oh, yeah. You suck, bogus.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Shout out to them. Shout out to my brother Kendall. We're going to end this thing with a bang with 40 Days and 40 Nights here. Let's keep it moving here. This is kind of a big story. Well, actually, before I get to the New York angle, let's keep it with the national angle real quick. Also a big story, though. So, Andrew Filipponi, who obviously does local radio in Pittsburgh. Shout out to Pony. I got to know him a little bit because he's been a frequent guest of Maggie and Perloff, and I've worked with him on the weekends on Infinity Sports Network / CBS Sports Radio. He is reporting that the Steelers have indeed expressed interest in bringing in Kenneth Walker for this upcoming season in free agency. So the Steelers are in a position where Kenneth Gainwell, who was voted the team's MVP this past season, is going to be a free agent, and he's probably going to get paid. Kenneth Gainwell had a really awesome season. So we now come into this season with the Steelers possibly needing a boost at running back. They've had Jaylen Warren, who's pretty good, but I don't know if he's a number 1 back or someone that's going to be a bell cow kind of back. They definitely need more in the backfield. One of the things I think that has hurt the Steelers over the last several years is they really haven't had an identity on offense at all. They've been extremely conservative. I guess that's probably their identity, that they've been a conservative offense. But not only have they not been able to like generate big plays down the field, they haven't even been a very consistent team in the running game, which is definitely not like the Steelers. If there's anything about Steelers offensive football, you always expect them to be able to run the ball with effectiveness. And that's been, I think, the best way to describe it is inconsistent. There have been moments where they have looked like the old Steelers, but then there have been moments where they cannot been able to run the ball. So I'll be honest, I actually like this a lot. I've said a bunch that I'm a big fan of Kenneth Walker. I think that he really emerged this year as one of the, obviously, stars of the postseason. But I thought throughout the regular season, I also thought he was awesome. I think he finally was healthy. He seemed to be rejuvenated. I think energized by playing in a tandem with Zach Charbonnet, who also had a great year for the Seahawks this year. And Charbonnet went out, and Kenneth Walker said, I'll do it myself, to quote Thanos. And he was awesome down the stretch of the regular season. And what's funny about him is he actually kind of reminds me of a former Steelers running back in Le'Veon Bell. Different body types. Le'Veon Bell was massive, right? He was super tall. He was lean, but he weighed about 230, 240. And similar running style, though, where you're not talking about a guy who's trying to just hit that hole at like 500 miles an hour and trying to break a 100-yard run every time he gets the rock or touches the rock. Very patient running styles. Like Walker has become infamous for that walking to the line kind of running style, waiting for a hole to open up and then bursting through, which almost was kind of like patented by Le'Veon Bell. Not that he was the first running back to ever do that, but that was like his signature when he was playing for the Steelers. Definitely wasn't his signature playing for the Jets. His signature for the Jets was him running into the offensive line for 2 yards every play, because he was kind of washed, and then the Jets' offensive line was super washed. I actually think that they were more of the issue than even he was with the Jets. But that was essentially Le'Veon Bell's jam. So I think the Steelers, knowing that they have had success with those kind of running backs in the past, they're probably thinking Kenneth Walker has some similarities to Le'Veon Bell from that standpoint. Now, he's not the guy in terms of the catching the ball out of the backfield and the overall back that Le'Veon Bell is. But this would be definitely a big boost to the Steelers' running game. So I will be for it. I think that this would be a smart move there. Again, though, Steelers are a weird team this offseason. Like, what is going on with them? Aaron Rodgers, who I made it a point, I think I deserve a lot of credit. In fact, I'm going to give myself a round of applause. Because you guys know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. And just him as a person, really. But definitely as a football leader, that's when I keep it to football, you know how I feel about him. The vibes are not positive. But I have not really talked about Aaron Rodgers. And I've not brought him up in any way, unless just in passing references, because he hasn't made any news. There's been no reason to talk about him, and I'm not trying to just create beefs where there are none, or there's no reason to. But Aaron Rodgers did speak on Pat McAfee this week. It seems like it was much ado about nothing, which is what it is, right? He could have interviews where nothing happens. I'm not upset about that, but the only reason why I bring it up, we didn't talk about it on the show because there was nothing that happened. He seemed to just want to talk to Pat McAfee for a couple of hours. No timetable still on when he's going to return. Was not committal to the Steelers. All those things that we're typically familiar with Aaron Rodgers. But I don't think there was anything offensive out of it. But once I saw there was no news, I just didn't really pay attention. I damn sure didn't watch it. But we are getting to a point where it's like, what is going on actually? Like, free agency starts in a couple of weeks, or next week, really. Is Aaron Rodgers coming back? Do the Steelers have any indication that he's coming back? Like last year, I think we all knew Rodgers was coming back. The criticism came, like, was it right for him to not do mini camp and OTAs and stuff and just essentially show up at training camp? That essentially was more of the conversation, not will he actually come back. I don't think people thought he was going to leave the Steelers at the altar. But that was more of the conversation. I don't think that's a conversation this year. I think there is a conversation about, like, is he actually going to play? So I don't know. Like, I hope for their sake that they have a better indication that's being given out that he will either play or won't play. And if he has not given them that indication, I hope that they have their plan B ready to go and whatever they want to do next. Which, if you ask me, I would just play Mason Rudolph and tank. Which, if that's the case, if you're not trying to get a top pick in this draft next year, or rather you are trying to get a top pick in the draft and you're not competing for playoffs anymore, then Kenneth Walker doesn't make sense. Kenneth Walker only makes sense if you want to keep the facade of we're a team that can have a winning record and we can make it past, winning the division a couple years, maybe winning a wild card a spot, but probably losing in the first round of the playoffs. If you want to keep that, then, which I think is what their goal is why I said, if you want to do that, then Kenneth Walker's a good fit. He definitely improves their team and gives them a better opportunity to compete at that level. Do I think he makes them a team that can win a championship next year? No. But they may be more pesky in the AFC. Maybe they become a team that could win a playoff game, maybe. But they got to figure out what's going on with Rodgers. Because if he's not coming back, are they making this fantasy trade with Tua that I'll probably talk about in just a second? Are they doing some other shenanigans to find a Kyler Murray or something? Like, what is their plan? I have no idea. I don't think anybody does. That's the one thing that's kind of casting a doubt on a lot of this Steelers free agency. In theory, getting Kenneth Walker makes sense, I guess, if you're bringing back Aaron Rodgers. But what if he retires? Then what? Your guess is as good as mine at that point. I think all the options outside of Aaron Rodgers, I think they're all worse. I think Kirk Cousins is worse. I guess the only option is maybe Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr, maybe there's a better upside than with Aaron Rodgers even. But even that's very questionable. But if it's Kirk Cousins, I think you can make a case that even with Kyler Murray, that the ceiling is not as high as with Aaron Rodgers. Kyler Murray, Malik Willis, like all those guys, the ceiling is much lower. To be honest, at least if they get Willis, at least that's a long-term answer at quarterback. He's kind of young. That would probably be the only like pseudo win now move that actually would support for the Steelers, because at least that would suggest that, okay, they're hoping that they have found a franchise quarterback that it's questionable whether or not he is. He might be really good. He looks really good in the small time he plays with the Packers. So I actually would be kind of okay with that. I've always felt that like Malik Willis felt like a Steeler watching him play last season. I'm like, this guy looks like he's a future Steeler quarterback. Just the feeling I get. So I always thought that was kind of where we were going with him and where this was going to end up. But the Kenneth Walker, everything that's happening around the team, all moves that come, none of them really, we can't really put them in a box in terms of good move or bad move until we actually know what the plan is. It doesn't make sense to have Mason Rudolph start next year and Kenneth Walker's running back. Again, to win 8 games, 9 games, for what reason? Rodgers, you can fake your way into believing that we can maybe compete for a championship, knowing you probably won't. But at least you have a ceiling that's like imaginary, but you can strive to. If Rodgers doesn't come back, there is no ceiling for maybe we can win a championship or get to a Super Bowl, even win multiple games in the playoffs. That's not happening. Not happening at all. I mentioned this trade that I saw yesterday that I really thought was compelling. And I kind of want to see it happen just because I don't think we've really seen a trade like this before. And I'd be very curious what you guys think of what you guys would do. I'm really curious in the chat if you're watching, what would be your call if you decided to make this kind of move. So I saw this because Evan Roberts, who obviously does the fan, shout out to Evan Roberts. He was supposed to come on 48s and 49s, but couldn't. He had a emergency that he had to handle, so therefore we couldn't get him on a couple weeks ago. So that was unfortunate. But he put it out there as a Jet perspective and said, well, I would definitely do this. I would definitely bite. I'm curious for if you're a fan of a team who may need a quarterback, or if you want to play the hypothetical game of you're a fan of some other team that does need a quarterback. Would you make this move? This was from, actually, this is a Pro Football Talk article, but I don't think it's from somewhere else. Let me see if I can get the original source. This was from Jonathan Jones. Shout out to Jonathan Jones. He said, an unnamed high-ranking team executive said that he'd consider taking on Tua Tagovailoa if the Dolphins would send a first-round pick to take on the freight of his contract. Tua is owed $54 million that is totally guaranteed for this upcoming season. They'll have to absorb a $99 million cap charge if/when they cut him, which is insane. I don't think they can cut Tua Tagovailoa, by the way. We kind of talked about that with Baggy and Perlow show. You can't take $100 million in cap charges. There's no way. I think he's stuck on the team. Maybe he's the backup. Maybe he's benched, and it's going to be really awkward. Who cares if it's awkward? So Jeff Hafley in the first year, if you want to play ball in that way and say, hey, listen, we're going to Russell Wilson him, I think that who cares? Just don't treat him like, don't be a jerk like Sean Payton while doing it. But I think that's totally fine. And then if a guy gets hurt or you need to put him to play, he can go out there and play. But think about that. The idea of a starting quarterback being shipped off and the price of doing business being a first round pick. The question being, would you do that if you were an NFL team? Now I'll say this. If I was the New York Jets or I was any of these teams that need a quarterback, I would 100% make that move. If the Dolphins came to me and said, you can have Tua Tagovailoa and we will give you our first round pick to just get the money off our hands. The Miami Dolphins have the number 11 pick in the NFL draft right now. That's a pretty damn good pick. And if I'm the Jets, I might even get creative, and I may call Las Vegas. And I know Darren Moody said, listen, of course we'd be interested in the number 1 pick, but I think it's unlikely that the Raiders would want to trade with us. He has been very upfront about that. But if I can get the number 11 pick, I'll take on Tua's terrible money, and I can go to Las Vegas. Okay, here's 2. Here's 11. Here's next year our first round pick. And maybe the following year our first round pick. That's a very enticing offer to maybe get Fernando Mendoza. I would be thinking of this very creatively. Like if you're the Jets, I would be on the phone with mine being like, hey, like is this real? Like would you do this? The fact that it's coming from another executive suggests that this isn't coming from Miami. But I would think Miami would prefer to give up this year's pick as opposed to next year's pick. Next year, they're probably going to be awful. Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be on his way out. They've depleted a lot of their defense already. They cut Tyreek Hill. They cut Bradley Chubb. The Dolphins have a chance to be the number 1 pick in the draft next year, so they're not going to give up next year's pick. So you probably are talking about the number 11 pick. Number 11 pick and Tua Tagovailoa for something. Just crap. I don't know, 3rd round pick or whatever. I would do that. If I had cap room, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even think twice. All right, Tua, you're our starting quarterback for a year. It's probably going to go terrible, or not. Or he's just on our bench. And, again, if you do make that aggressive move for Fernando Mendoza, then Fernando Mendoza's your guy and Tua's just eating up money for a year. But I can live with that knowing that at least I now have a shot with my franchise quarterback. I would make that trade. And even if I can't get Fernando Mendoza, I would still make that trade. Because Tua Tagovailoa is a decent enough quarterback to where if he has to start for the New York Jets next year with Garrett Wilson, with some changes to the wide receiver room, you may have some success.
Tua Tagovailoa.
I mean, why not give that a shot? I don't know. I'm curious. Would you guys make that trade if you were the Miami Dolphins? If someone came to you and said, we will take that $54 million that's guaranteed, can't go anywhere with it, guaranteed going to the Tagovailoa next year. $54 million. And if you're going to try to cut him, it's a $100 million cap hit. We will take all of those problems off your hands if you give us your first round pick next year. If you're the Dolphins, would you do it? I might consider it. I'll be honest. If I was the Dolphins, I might consider it. Because if they do really want to start over and they do really want to have a full clean slate and they do want to be able to really kind of fix the issues with this team and maybe attack free agency, maybe find a quarterback that they like in free agency, like Jeff Hafley was just in Green Bay, this could be their opportunity to get Malik Willis. If you can get Tua Tagovailoa's money off your books completely. Okay, you lose your first round pick. Okay, that sucks. It really would for a team that's that bad. But, okay, you lose your first round pick. That's 1 year where it's kind of a tough thing. But now I have all this free cap space. I can then sign a Malik Willis. And then I come into next year. And if Malik Willis stinks, then we are in position to potentially have a super top pick. And the money that we had that was guaranteed to Tua would be cleared up. Malik Willis is not going to cost as much as Tua Tagovailoa is costing right now. It's enticing. It's enticing. Matt Graves, if I got the money, why not? His health is an issue, but if he can't play, that could end up giving you a higher draft pick next year. Yeah, if you're another team, this is not even a conference. I would do this in a heartbeat. Part of me wonders if maybe that's why it's being put out there, because it's like, oh, like, of course another team would do this, but the Dolphins wouldn't do it. Maybe that's the conversation. But I'll be honest, like, there are other teams that probably should have considered stuff like this. Like, the Browns probably should have considered this for Deshaun Watson, like not this year, and maybe not last year because they had the number 2 pick in the draft, but maybe the second or third year once it really looked like this thing was going bad, they probably should have considered something like this for Deshaun Watson. Like, and this is something we see in the NBA with the offloading contracts and having to give up, a first-round pick or picks to do that. We don't really see that happen in the NFL. This would be kind of a one-time deal. It's enticing. I think it would be enticing for all parties. I'm curious if these conversations have actually happened, but think about that. Tua Tagovailoa could be so radioactive because of his contract that could he potentially be just simply shipped off and traded because a team needs, a quarterback, and they look at that number 11 pick and say, "Ooh, I can get someone really good there. I'll take the pick." It's an interesting proposition. I found that to be really interesting that was being put out. Shout out to Jonathan Jones for that report and that story of the idea of taking on Tua's contract in order to get a first-round pick. It's creative. I hope that German man. I hope that was Darren Bougie who said that. I hope that was some front office member who said that, because that would be some shrewd movements by that front office. So let's get to what I want to talk about earlier, which was the Jets quarterback plan. So this is no word about Tua Tagovailoa here, so I don't think that was Darren Bougie giving those quotes to Jonathan Jones at CBS. But apparently it seems like the Jets are in position to target not just one, but 2 free agents quarterbacks this upcoming season. So we have the offseason coming up. The Jets clearly have a quarterback problem. The word early on has been that you'll see Justin Fields get cut, so his Jet career will be over. And now the Jets are going to be looking for a new quarterback. According to Connor Hughes, the Jets might not target just one quarterback free agency. Belief from agents who have met with them at the NFL Combine that they prefer to add 2, which is a little bit of what you heard from my good buddy that now become a friend of the show, Antoine Staley of the Daily News, who also kind of said the same thing, that look for them to potentially get 2 quarterbacks here. It's similar to what the Giants did a year ago with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Kyler Murray was discussed, but he is expected to sign with the Vikings per sources. Big stuff there. We'll talk about that in a second. No Kirk Cousins, but watch Geno Smith and Carson Wentz. There's interest there. Jacoby Brissett too. If Cardinals can be convinced to part, was told that's doubtful, with Jimmy Garoppolo expected to stay in LA. Jimmy G signing with the Cardinals would change that. Wentz might surprise some because of the notion Frank Reich-Wentz relationship fell apart in Indianapolis. From my understanding, that was more GM owner, not coach. The 2 remain very close. One source told me that QB Reich prefers Wentz, and quote, another, no one loves Wentz more than Frank. We'll see what the Jets can get done. So a lot going on there. We'll get to the Kyler aspect of it in a second. But on the front, the Jets prefer 2 quarterbacks. And the names that you're hearing, I think for Jets fans, similar to what we had, the conversation we had with Antoine Staley a couple of nights ago when he mentioned Andy Dalton, like the huge, sexy names that you're talking about, again, your Kirk Cousins, your Derek Carrs, your Kyler Murrays, those seem to be more pipe dreams. And the Jets seem to be committed to a clear plan to me, which is to get a quarterback who, if you bring this guy in, the expectations are super low, and there's not an expectation that if this guy's going to take us to a Super Bowl or do anything crazy. He may be able to play some confident football, may be able to win a couple of games, but we don't want somebody that just off rip probably eliminates our opportunity to get our quarterback for the future in next year's likely QB-loaded NFL draft. Because Carson Wentz and Geno Smith, I don't think are quarterbacks you're looking at and saying they come to New York, the Jets are going to go from 3 wins to 8 wins. I don't see that. Could they go to 3 to 6, 3 to 5? Probably. Like, that seems about right. But Jacoby Brissett, same thing. Like, Brissett basically took over for the Kyler Murray mid-season, or not even mid-season, early in the season. And the Cardinals basically, they win 1 or 2 games with him starting. Like, he basically won no games. All those games he started. And Carson Wentz, almost had to be carried off the field in a body bag, the way Maggie Gray would say, after that hellacious beating he took against the Rams this season when he had to start for the Vikings this year when J.J. McCarthy got hurt. He was dealing with injuries and rim injuries, all this stuff. And Kevin O'Connell basically went out there and said, if he dies, he dies. Had no business taking him out of the game, no interest taking him out of the game. You know, he was dying out there. These are not going to be names that are going to excite Jets fans. Carson Wentz is the name that I know for one of my good buddies. They will be very excited about that.
EJ's a nerd.
We all know how much my good friend Andrew Perloff loves himself in Carson Wentz.
It's going to be the dad bod gods.
So actually, we'll be excited to ask him about what he thinks about Wentz potentially with the New York Jets. Wentz is some guys in the NFL, some guys in sports, again, kind of going back to the Russell Westbrook conversation where it's like you don't know certain things, but you just got to kind of you got to, as Kevin Durant says, read between the lines of a certain player in terms of why they can't stick or why they don't seem to have consistent success. And Carson Wentz strikes me as one of those guys where on paper, because of his arm talent, size, ability to throw the football, on paper, like, why couldn't he be a good option as a bridge quarterback? Maybe that's a good conversation. That's a conversation that can make sense. I just feel like we've seen now multiple organizations give out all the hints in the world that the guy is bad news. So I'm just kind of going to assume the guy is bad news. Frank Reich seems to like him according to O'Connor Hughes. So I don't know why he likes him, but Jim Irsay, the late Jim Irsay, and Chris Ballard, why those guys could not wait to bury his ass after that season was over. Like, they could not wait to dance on his grave and be like, this guy will not be in Indianapolis Colt, and we are lucky and thankful that his career is over here. I'm like, they were saying stuff. I'm like, wow. Again, Thuggalicious from Boondocks. I wonder what he did to make them that mad. Same thing. I'm like, he was terrible down the stretch. The Colts looked like they were a sneaky Super Bowl contender that year. And he threw away the season with some horrendous play in the last 3 games. They lost to the Raiders and the Jaguars with needing just 1 game to convince them to clinch a playoff spot. He was dreadful. So, like, okay, he flopped down the stretch. He's Carson Wentz. I'm not surprised he did that. I was surprised at just how, definitive they were with wanting to explain that, he was the cause of their issues and they had to get him out the building after statistically he had a very good year with the Indianapolis Colts. The last 2 or 3 games were awful, but I just... okay, you want to move on from him. He was a 1-year guy anyway. I understand that. I just didn't understand why it was so much, again, pouring dirt on the grave once he's leaving. So, but Philly didn't end well. Indy didn't win well. The Commander situation didn't go well. And then there's this aura about Carson Wentz that there's something off about him. I'm not going to be the guy to be like, oh, no, all those people are wrong, and Carson Wentz is right. He has all the goods to be a good NFL quarterback. Clearly, they know something that I don't know. He was with the Vikings last year, and he had an opportunity to perform, and he was kind of meh. He was playing injured during a lot of that time. I do think that that's also a question with him. I think he does get injured. He is an injury-prone kind of guy, and he's 33 years old. Not injured, but to the point of your career where maybe the injuries start to pile up even more now. So I have some questions, which is why, if you're talking about Carson Wentz, yeah, you better sign another free agent. There better be another guy in the mix to potentially be a quarterback. I think the plan, just in terms of me thinking about what I heard from Antoine Staley on this show. Shout out to Antoine. And then now seeing this from Connor Hughes. Shout out to Connor Hughes. I've had him on shows as well. I think we kind of know the plan for the Jets. It's going to be 2 of these mid guys. It could be a Geno Smith and a Carson Wentz. It could be a Carson Wentz and a Jimmy Garoppolo. It could be one of those things. 2 mid guys to compete for the starting spot in a full quarterback competition. And then, like we heard from Antoine, they will then draft a quarterback, but it's not going to be Ty Simpson. It's going to be one of these guys they can get in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe even later. So it's going to be then Drew Aller or Garrett Nussmeier or maybe Carson Beck. I feel like Carson Beck's a Frank Reich guy. I don't know why. It's just a vibe I get. That's not who was mentioned by Antoine, but he strikes me as a Frank Reich guy for some reason. I think one of those guys, plus 2 veteran quarterbacks, but not like a Kyler Murray or not Malik Willis, not someone with a potentially high ceiling. Low ceiling, middling floor quarterbacks, 2 of them, and then a 3rd, 4th round guy. Nobody that could potentially, even if they play well, change the narrative of the Jets needing a quarterback next year. Because I think they do want to draft a quarterback next season. So if they say, okay, we're a bad team again, it may, Aaron Glenn may be the sacrificial lamb if that is the case, but we're not going to give you a situation where we're going to just hand you, a guy who's a former Pro Bowler, like, Kirk Cousins or like a Kyler Murray. The Kirk Cousins thing, in terms of them being out on that, I have a weird theory. I have a theory that Woody Johnson doesn't want Kirk Cousins because he felt embarrassed when Kirk Cousins was down the road with the Jets on negotiations and then turned around and spurned them and went to the Vikings. Because the fact that they're just saying off rip we want nothing to do with him seems a little weird. I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins guy, at least not this version of Kirk Cousins. I think he was good when he was at the Vikings, but the guy that I saw in Atlanta and come off the torn Achilles, I'm not so high on him. I would take him, but it seems a little weird that just like no chance that Kirk Cousins would be here. They have no interest. He's off the board. I'm like, again, for the 3rd time, what did he do to make them that mad? I'm like, why are they being so aggressive with Kirk Cousins that he can't even be considered? When I see something like that, it makes me think, oh, there's some personal thing that's happening, and Woody Johnson's definitely got to get personal. And when Kirk Cousins was a free agent and he signed with the Vikings, the Jets were very interested, and it seemed like he spurned them, and he let the word get out that the Jets offered all this guaranteed money, and I prefer to play with a team that I thought I could win, and the Jets are a loser. That he kind of made it pretty clear why he chose the Vikings over the Jets, and then embarrassed the Jets. So my thought is that, similar to what I said about LeBron James and the Knicks, about how you can't troll the Knicks, and then when you need something from the Knicks organization to put a battery pack in your twilight of your career, you can't not come back and say, oh no, please give me a job. Like, I don't want you here. I think that's what Woody Johnson is probably doing with Kirk Cousins and why he's not an option. But that, I think, is the plan for the Jets. It's going to be one of these mid-tier guys, 2 of them, and then they'll then draft a quarterback, and then they'll have a guy, and that quarterback could be, Arch Manning back up next year, that rookie that's here this year. That doesn't mean that the guy's gone or the guy like has no future here. Now you have a backup plan if your rookie quarterback next year turns out to be another Zach Wilson. So it's not a terrible plan. It's probably the plan I would do. I would probably do the same thing. If I like Malik Willis, I would take a shot at him, but if the money gets too ridiculous and, there's a good reason why he might not want to be with the Jets, that's fine. If you couldn't do that, this is probably the iteration of what I would do to ensure that the tank is still on. The tank is going to have to be on at least for one more year, I think, for the Jets. They got to find a way to get their franchise quarterback, and they have all these assets to do so. They don't have to be the worst team in the NFL to do it. They already are really bad, and they have multiple first-round picks. So they can go through this offseason, get normal, decent guys that will improve the roster and maybe improve the win total, as long as you're not getting somebody that has a high upside to maybe get you to, like, playoff contention or something like that. I don't think you want to be in that situation. Some Jet fans will disagree. They'll say that, oh, no, we should try to win every game and stuff. It's just not realistic. That's not realistic. And unlike the Seahawks, who they tore down a good team to become a great team and did it while the plane was in the air, the Jets are a terrible team. So it's hard to be like, let's get kind of good, but then also find our franchise quarterback to win a championship. It doesn't really work that way. Order operations is not gonna fly there. 40 days and 40 nights. Your boy EJ Stewart streaming live, multiple spots. Streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart. Streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. Shout out to the folks on the Instagram chat. Shout out to the folks obviously watching me on YouTube, New Generation Media. Matthew Gray's asking, Rank has a history with Wentz in Carolina, doesn't he? Or did they cross paths? And then he said, not Carolina, I meant Colts. I think I had him confused with Dalton for a minute. Yeah, I understand. Red-headed quarterbacks that have dealt with Frank Reich, they can be a little confusing. They're backup quarterbacks. He's also two Andrew Perloff favorites. I mean, you want to talk about quarterbacks that he loves himself some Carson Wentz. I don't think he's actually met Carson Wentz, so I don't know why he loves him so much. I don't really understand that part of it. But we know he definitely loves himself some Carson Wentz.
Dr. J, everybody.
And of course, Andy Dalton, he has worked with. He did, I think, a long profile on Andy Dalton, so he's gotten to know Andy Dalton pretty well. So he does know Andy Dalton. So that is his guy. But they're two redheaded quarterbacks who worked with Frank Reich, who also the former Eagles assistant. So there's a lot of Perloff energy here. It turns out this is going to end up being the perfect day to have Andrew Perloff here. He knows Dalton. He loves Carson Wentz. He has familiarity with Frank Reich. So he'll be here. And it's a good day to have Maggie Gray because, you know, she can talk about her number one receiver in DJ Moore.
Yeah, finally!
She didn't seem all that excited in the tweets and in the group chat that we have. I was like, Maggie, you got your number one receiver. She was like, is he?
Yeah, finally!
No, it's more like,
how dare you?
So, a great day to have both of them on later today. That's going to be at 7 p.m. for Night 40, the final day of 40 days and 40 nights. But yeah, I understand getting Dalton and homeboy Wentz confused. That's not surprising. The other thing on that report, by the way, that Murray expected to go to the Vikings per a source, that's news. That hasn't been reported that he's expected to go to the Vikings. The Vikings are one of the teams that are expected to be suitors. They have been one of the favorites. Initially, the Jets were the betting favorite when this whole thing started, and he got told that he was going to be released. If we're talking about Kyler Murray going to the Vikings, what becomes interesting now is what is the plan for J.J. McCarthy? I guess Kyler Murray is going to be on a one-year deal, so you're not signing him to long-term because he wants to make sure he gets that guaranteed money from the Cardinals. If he signs a long-term deal, then he doesn't get that. So he's going to sign the one-year vet minimum, which for the Vikings, why not? That's a must sign. Doesn't even matter about the fit. Doesn't matter about his elite. Like, none of that matters. The bargain is too good for a guy that has that much talent, and you're a team that has a quarterback who looks non-functional. And you have arguably the best receiving core in your division, in a division that has awesome receiving cores. And the defense, that's awesome. Like, you have no choice but to kind of make a move like this. So from the Vikings standpoint, you got to bring him in, but it does lead to questions about what it means for 9. That is a nickname that J.J. McCarthy gave himself. I feel like 9 is not going to be the starting quarterback next year. I think he lost his job. If Kyler Murray is going to sign with the Minnesota Vikings, that is what Connor Hughes is reporting today. Connor Hughes is an excellent reporter. He's excellent. If he's saying this, then I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen. If he's saying that is what the expectation is going to be, can you afford with J.J. McCarthy to have him benched for a year, and then Kyler Murray plays however he plays, and then you'll have him in his 4th year? You will have to make a decision whether or not you're picking up his 5th-year option. Are you picking up his 5th-year option at first-round pick quarterback money to be a backup still? Or are you saying we're going to let him walk in free agency? Does J.J. McCarthy become someone that can be traded? Because I will be honest, I think that he would have some trade value. Nobody's going to come and trade you a first-round pick for him. 0% chance. But could you get a mid-round pick and for a team that may want to bring him in and develop him? Like, I would be a little afraid of him going to a place like the Rams or maybe a place like San Francisco. A place where it actually teaches quarterbacks and develops them in a way that they come out of there, they look like a whole new man, like we saw with the biggest example, of course, being Sam Darnold. I would be a little wary of that in terms of like other teams. Not that the Vikings should care. If they don't think he's good and they think he's not going to develop there, then let him go. But that he's going to have some value. He's going to have some value. The fact that Kevin O'Connell has already decided, apparently, that he's done with 9 after just 1 year of watching him play makes that pick a disaster. An absolute disaster. That you're going to take Kyler Murray on the scrap heap to just pull the chute on J.J. McCarthy because you don't think that he can get to where you need him to get to in his development in order to maximize his roster currently. So the Vikings will come in with a new quarterback, potentially in Kyler Murray, and that will be a very interesting team to watch. Kyler Murray gets to play in the Dome still, so that will help him in his home games. He will have two very cold weather games. Though we'll see, last year they played the Bears early in the season at home, so they only had to play one really cold weather game against the Packers later in the season. So it may depend on kind of how the season goes, but it'll be very fascinating how the Kyler Murray situation works with whether or not that's going to be a great fit. We'll see what the schedule shakes out. He's a guy I assume you want to have playing in warm weather and playing indoors. He'll get indoors. Hopefully he wants to play a 0-3 game in Lambeau Field or something like that. I don't think that probably is conducive to his skill set. But he definitely is an upgrade. No question, Kyler Murray will be an upgrade over what they have at quarterback in 9 at this point in time. Last thing before we get out of here, man. I keep looking at my phone because there was a chance we may have had a guest today. But it seemed to be very up in the air. And I mean today, I mean this morning. Of course, we'll have playing a guest tomorrow. But I was trying to check my phone because I sent out the link to say, hey, if you want to join, but nothing has happened yet. So I'm going to assume that this will be the end of the show. But if something special happens, we will be ready. We'll be prepared. Lower thirds ready and everything in case that does happen. But if it doesn't happen, then, it is what it is. It's all good. But we'll end one quick thing here. So the Giants obviously come into a big offseason. John Harbaugh's first offseason where it feels like he's really calling the shots. There has been reportedly some frustration from the Giants organization, and I assume Joe Shane, with the narrative that he has been relegated to being a pencil pusher. This idea that somebody that he was supposed to, be the general manager, be collaborating with John Harbaugh in this new role where Harbaugh only reports to the owner and doesn't report to the general manager, but that they work together. They brought in a vice president of football operations who does not actually report to the general manager, who reports to John Harbaugh, not even the owner, reports to John Harbaugh. That seems to be a interesting thing to have happen. And again, the word that at this point he's just doing, Joe Shane's just doing scouts. That's kind of it. He's scouting college players and giving them scouting information, and that's pretty much all the responsibility he's being given. It comes to, I guess, this upcoming free agency, off-season stuff. John Harbaugh and the new vice president of football operations are going to be leading the charge in that standpoint. So one big decision you're going to have to make is going to be about Wan'Dale Robinson, who reportedly has a big interest coming from the Tennessee Titans. So Wan'Dale Robinson, he's a former top pick for the Giants, I believe a second-round pick. He had his best year of his career last year. He caught for over 1,000 yards. He was one of the bright spots in a Giant season that was putrid. They won just 4 games this past season. They went into the last few weeks with an opportunity to have the worst record in the NFL, and they somehow squandered that because they felt like tanking was beneath them, and they felt like they had an opportunity to, instill a winning culture in week 16 and 17 and 18. Now, it's freaking ridiculous. But that was the plan. That was the goal, and they accomplished it. They won those games that knocked them out of the opportunity to get the number 1 pick in the draft, or even the number 2 pick in the draft. They really botched that. But Wan'Dale Robinson was one of definitely the bright spots. He had some big games this past season. He had a big game in that ill-fated win over the Las Vegas Raiders where he had 14 catches for 113 yards. And a lot of the failed Giants draft picks, took him a long time to come along, but it started to look like this was the year he started to put together. So now he's going to be in for a payday. It seems like where the Giants are right now and the Titans in terms of their cap space, he's a guy that definitely could be seeing greener pastures with the new team. I think if you're the Giants and you look at their cap sheet, right now they only have $9 million in cap space. There's word that they could move on from trade Kayvon Thibodeau, which could obviously free up some money. But I think with the Titans having $92 million in cap space and no strings attached to pretty much anybody that's on the roster, I think this is one of those where they say the Giants are going to go, quote unquote, try to keep Wan'Dale Robinson. I think the ship has sailed. You can't keep this guy. The Titans can go as high as $20 million a year if they want to. And that's probably about right for his production last year. He was very good. He ain't no prime time superstar receiver. He's not gonna command $30 million a year. But could he command somewhere between 15 and 20, I would say? Probably. I think with the other Giants, you have issues at receiver, but he's not good enough to where I don't turn around and say, okay, let's go to the NFL draft order. We have an opportunity with the 5th pick in the draft. We can go get a Carnell Tate or a Boston. I mean, not Boston, sorry. Or a, what's it called? Jordan Tyson. Or one of these other guys, Mekhi Lemon. We can go after one of these guys, and we could use that pick to trade down to get one of those guys. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's replacement is coming from the NFL draft. So if you're a Giant fan, you may have to live with the reality that your leading receiver from last year is going to walk out the door. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think Wan'Dale is pretty good, but I think he's a little limited. And there is higher potential, higher ceiling guys, I think, available in this draft. You guys know that I have a crush on Mekhi Lemon. I did actually finally see that interview that Rob DeRay was talking about where he was like, did you see how much of a weirdo he looked like in his interview where he's doing the press junket or the press conference at the NFL Combine? And it was weird. I'm not going to lie. It was weird. I did watch it. What I will say is what I told Kendall, which is that, like, we're a city and a place that is not afraid of weird eyes. We saw that with Adam Gase. That, of course, didn't go well. But would that make me not draft him? No. I don't know what was happening with him, what his deal was, or what he was trying to convey. I would assume that he's going to have a team around him that's going to try to make him a lot more personable and likable and not so awkward when he actually gets drafted and gets introduced to his new team. I know that what the tape tells me, that interview would not make me scared of drafting him. It was a little weird. I'm not going to lie. It was definitely strange. But I think you're probably seeing the end of the Wan'Dale Robinson era in New York. That was a Dave Gettleman beauty. Drafting him took him 4 or 5 years to finally actually really come into his own, and it came into his own right at a time where the Giants are in another big transition, which it seems like almost every year because they're always having to change locker room, change vibes, change coaches. Like, this has become the norm for the New York Giants. So his contract coming up at this point in time, I think, probably means he walks out and he steps out. But that's okay. There's plenty of good receivers here. If I'm the Giants, I'm looking at Tyson. I'm looking at Lemon. I'm looking at Carnell Tate. I'm not as high on Carnell Tate as most other people. He's probably I think he's the only guy that would, if he got drafted 5, people wouldn't go crazy. If I'm the Giants, I would trade down. I think somebody probably would want maybe one of the defensive ends early in the draft. Maybe I could give this one of those teams, hey, trade with me, fly up to get one of these guys that fall to 5, or maybe get a guy like Sonny Styles, who also has been linked to the New York Giants. I don't love that pick. I've seen the Sonny Styles rumors to the New York Giants, and to be fair, the Giants just got rid of Bobby Okereke, who also was kind of a major disappointment with the Giants this past few years. He came over in free agency a couple years ago. Sonny Styles, we've already talked about the athleticism. It's through the roof. He essentially is Derrick Henry if he was playing linebacker. In terms of his speed and athleticism and strength, it's freakish. And the tape is good. He's also a very good player. Is he the best player in that Ohio State defense? I think Katie McDonald and I think Arvo Reese were more impactful players. And, of course, the best player on the team was Caleb Downs, defensively, in my opinion. But he was really good. But a lot of that tape is being boosted by the measurables. The Giants have had a miserable time solving the middle linebacker spot. Or just the linebacker spot, period. It's been a weakness for the team for so long. They finally fixed it when they signed Antonio Pierce after years and years and years of never finding a replacement for Jesse Armstead. And then they got Pierce, and then Pierce really kind of solidified the linebacker room for a little bit, and he left. And then it went years and years and years since he got cut, or where I forgot how his career ended. Maybe he retired, I don't remember. But his Giant career ended, and they went all these years trying to solve the linebacker position. And thankfully for them, the linebacker spot, in terms of the inline linebacker spot, it wasn't quite as valued a position because teams weren't running the ball as much. And it wasn't the 3 yards and cloud dust kind of football anymore. It became much more of a spread offense team. And honestly, it was about having linebackers that could play in space. That's why someone like Luke Kuechly became such an archetype for linebackers for the next generation, because as the game evolved into that, he became the perfect linebacker because he was so rangy and he was so good in coverage, they were looking for guys like that. They couldn't find anybody, but at least it wasn't like, okay, we don't have a team that will be able to run all over us because we have no linebackers. But nonetheless, it was a weakness. I get the Sonny Styles thing, but I just think I don't love that pick at 5 for the value that he has. I think someone made the case if he's Fred Warner, though, who cares? I don't know if I draft Fred Warner in the top 5. And maybe that means I'm an idiot and take my football card away. I think Fred Warner is a Hall of Famer. He's a consistent All-Pro. He's a favorite in the Stewart Lynch household, because his wife is a former contestant on The Bachelorette. So I got a lot of love for Fred Warner. He's also been on the Maggie and Perloff show. And I've gotten to meet Fred Warner, actually. Now I'm remembering. So, and he seems also like a great leader. All good things to say about Fred Warner. I just don't think... I'd rather take my shot on a more premium position and fail than draft Fred Warner. That's how I feel. If I draft a receiver and he fails, that's all right. I screwed up. Okay, we don't have Fred Warner next year. Okay, that sucks. I'll have to find another linebacker. It's just the position. It's not him. It's not him. It's just the position. I would take my chances that, okay, if he turns into Fred Warner, that would suck, but Fred Warner would win 5th in the draft in that year. Okay, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to say I've made some terrible mistakes. I didn't draft a middle linebacker in the top 5 in 2026. I'm not doing that. If they want Sonny Styles, I would, again, if he ends up falling in the draft, and a lot of this is smokescreen, then I maybe trade down a couple of spots. I wouldn't take him at 5. At the top 5, I need to get a guy who I feel like can flip a game. Like, that's why, like, you know, I think safety to me is more valuable than middle linebacker. Because I think a safety can flip the game. Like, an Ed Reed or Troy Polamalu, like, or like a Jesse Bates, like these are main thing on current safeties. Those guys can flip a game with their ball hawking ability. So while that's not a premium position, they could still just change the entire landscape. They could win you a Super Bowl. They could win you a playoff game with their ball hawking ability. A linebacker, they can play a great game over the course of a game, and they can be an impact player over the course of the game. But if you can't, if you're not either a premier position or you can't flip the game on one play, I'm not drafting you in the top 5. And to me, that's what I see with a middle linebacker. It's one of those spots that I don't think can. I mean, they could get an interception too in theory, but they're not that kind of player. Middle linebackers are role players in the NFL right now. That wasn't always the case. When the game was more 3 yards in a cloud of dust, having your Ray Lewises, having your Brian Urlachers, having your, you know, Brian Urlacher also was awesome in coverage and a rangy guy as well. But like having those thumpers in the running game, like you needed those guys because just there were so many plays being decided in small quarters. There were so many plays that are being decided around 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and 5 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. So linebacker position was so much more important. That's why like Dick Butkus and Jack Ham and so many of these iconic, Mike Singletary, these iconic legends that were middle linebackers, because the game revolved around the game that was being played within the 5 yard to 10 yard intervals beyond the line of scrimmage and before in the middle of the field. Now the game is played on the perimeters. It's the edges coming off the edge. It's the wide receivers winning on the outside. It's the slot receivers winning inside and outside. It's other spots where the games are being won and lost. So the middle linebacker, they don't even play 3 linebackers in a game most of the time. Most of the time, teams' base defenses now are nickel. It's no longer about what's your base defense in terms of is it a 4-3 or a 3-4. It's more like, are you doing 3 traditional down linemen or 4 traditional down linemen? It's not about the linebackers. The linebacker number can vary because you're probably going to have a third cornerback out there or a star position or a striker position, as they say in football, like various different spots for like a third, like safety nickel type guy who's a hybrid. Like football is different now. So I don't love Sonny Styles for the Giants because I'm like, I think this game is not, it's not being, now if you tell me you're moving him to safety, now that's a different conversation, which I've seen some people talk about. I think he's a linebacker. I would put him at linebacker, but if you put him at safety, maybe we'd have a different conversation. I wouldn't draft him at 5 at linebacker. But I think with Wan'Dale Robinson potentially going to the Titans if I'm the Giants, I would be like, okay, thanks for the memories. Have fun playing with Cam Ward. We're going to just find our receiver in the first round of this upcoming draft. And then for the Titans, I hope this isn't it. Like, Wan'Dale was good, and they need influx of talent big time for their team. There's not many guys on the squad that, are going to be back next year. So they're going to have a whole new squad. This is not going to excite me a ton, but he is productive, and they definitely need help at wide receiver, need Cam Ward, all the help they can get. I just hope that this isn't like, okay, we solved the receiver situation now that we got Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, brothers, you guys got a ton of work to do on that offense, because I watched Cam Ward play this year, man, and it was tough for me to watch as a Miami Hurricane fan, because I'm like, this guy has nothing. He is running for his life, and he is making some crazy throws in the best way, like good, like some crazy throws. Guys are dropping them. Guys aren't seeing where the holes are in the defense. Like, his receiving core was abominable. So Wan'Dale will help. But I think there's still a big step up they're going to need. This is a good start for them. But they're going to need a lot more help than just Wan'Dale Robinson when you look at where the Titans were this past season. But I think his Giant career, I think it's safe to say, is over. Oh, wow, did not want to hit that. My bad. Not over quite yet, but we're pretty much at the end here. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this edition of 40 Days and 40 Nights. Of course, streaming live multiple spots, including on YouTube. New Generation Media. Of course, thank you guys so much for checking me out on YouTube. Shout out to the YouTube audience that has held me down for all 40 days. I know there's, for a lot of you guys, there's like some of you guys, there's like a morning crew that are always here, and they're not always here at night. And that makes sense. Maybe you're working at night. Maybe you just want to do other things. You don't want to have me watch me do 2 shows per day or listen to me do 2 shows per day. I totally understand that. But for the people that have rocked with me all throughout the morning side on this, you guys deserve an absolute round of applause. I, maybe to your surprise, am not a morning person, not one bit. I hate the mornings. And the only silver lining, if you can even call it that I could foresee with Maggie and Perloff's show, the Infinity Sports Network iteration of it ending, was, and it's what we all said, so I'm not speaking out on an island. Thank God I'm going to do that 4 a.m. wake up, because I know some of you guys do it. Some of you guys grind, man. Some of you guys work multiple jobs. Some of you guys are serving your communities, public service jobs and all the things, and we appreciate you guys' services, man. Some of you guys know what that grind is like, working overnights, working early mornings, all those different things. And you guys are doing it, and you're doing grunt work, and you guys are superheroes. So we love you. We appreciate you guys. We're just, some jerks sitting around on a mic talking sports. We got we talk about how much of a grind it is, but we know, we understand how lucky we are to have these platforms and to have these opportunities and to have these audiences. So we appreciate you guys. But yeah, that early morning wake up is not for me. And everybody, I think along with the entire show, was very excited about the opportunity of not having to wake up at 4 a.m. I've now also learned that even a 6:50, 7 a.m. wake up, even that's challenging when you've done a show the night before. Like, I think in a vacuum, had I not been doing a previous night show, maybe even the 6:50 or 7 a.m. wake up, I feel a lot better. Like, I feel the improvement of it. Like, I still, like, in the last few weeks, I've been like, man, I kind of feel tired like I was when I was doing Maggie and Pearl. It's like, well, yeah, because you're doing 2 shows per day. And you're not waking up at 4 a.m., but to wake up at 7 a.m. after having done a night show and done post-production afterwards and posted and edited and doing all that stuff, like, you're doing a lot, brother. So I think that I can say that while this has been a fun journey, I am excited about, for the next several weeks, being able to, like, actually sleep in for a little bit and start my days around the day. Like, if I had that opportunity, if you told me what would be the hours EJ could work if he was creating his own hours in a magical world, I'd probably work something like 11 to 7. Something like that. Maybe 10 to 6, but something like 11 to 7. I want to be able to wake up at like 9 a.m. If I had to wake up at 9 a.m. every day to then start my day and get to work or whatever, I would probably be pretty functional. I'm a night owl. I am someone who enjoys staying up late. I watch a lot of late basketball. I play a lot of late video games. The job of working Maggie Perloff, like, killed that tremendously. But sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's tough to go to sleep early, or sometimes there's sporting events that you have to watch. So that even if you want to go to bed early, you have no choice. So the 4 a.m. wake up was not my jam. Even the 6:57 a.m. wake, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get back to getting some sleep. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm still really, really, really grateful for everybody that is locked in with me during all these mornings. 8 weeks. Thank you to Rob DeRay for giving me that math number that I was struggling with for so many weeks in a row. The problem with the math was I kept combining as if it was doing it every week and not just 5 days. So I couldn't figure out how many weeks it was. Anyway, the fact that 8 weeks down, you guys were with me. Day in, day out. Some of you guys every day. Some of you guys popping in every now and then just to say hi, say kind words, to show support, to show love. Cannot thank you guys enough. You guys were absolutely the best. Absolutely the best. You guys have been rocking it. Rob DeRay, you're my hero. I wish you 1,000 more platforms to talk to yourself. Oh, I appreciate that, Rob. You know you're my guy. You know you're my guy, buddy. Lucky G. Look forward to this evening's show. This one's going to be a good one. It's the last one, man. We got to go out strong. We have to go out strong on the last one, man. I got an interesting text here. I want to make sure I can see this. I'll tell you this text because it's related to tonight. So Maggie Perloff will come on. I said 7 p.m. Perloff is asking me if it could be 7:20, so it will be 7:20. So for those who are excited about Maggie and Perloff, they will be here. But it's going to be a little later in the show, so it'll be 7:20, not 7 o'clock. We'll be live at 6 o'clock, and that actually helps because I was already trying to jigsaw how we're going to do Kendall Fridays. That actually makes it a lot easier. Kendall will come on first hour, and then Maggie Perloff to take us home. So Kendall will be on earlier in the show, probably 6:20 or so. He'll take us up until 7:20, and then we'll have Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff live to end the show. So this night show is going to be one you don't want to miss. That's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. That's going to do it for this edition of 40 Days and 40 Nights. If you don't think that the show still chats and we still talk again, actual text from Andrew Perloff I'm reading on the air. I want to thank you guys again for rocking with me all 40 days. This has been an absolute thrill. I've learned so much about you guys. I've learned about myself, and we've had a lot of fun. And I think we've taken what was a kind of a dark time with the end of Maggie and Perloff and tried to turn it into something positive. And you guys, I owe a great debt to you for that. We'll have another kick-ass show to wrap this up, man. I'm EJ Stewart. I'll see you guys later.